Hello there, folks. Kirk and Jason here with Kirk Giordano Plastering. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to repair this buckling at the lower portion of this house. Obviously, if you're going to repair something, you should have a pretty good idea why it's even happened. What we have is, it's a 75-year-old house. It's on a slope, it's on a busy area. So I'll show you something. Can you show the rear of this home? All right, this house is about 75 years old, give or take. Now, if I'm going to rate the stucco on this house, a lot of things you have to factor in, like the engineering of the foundation and all that. I'd rate this house about, say, a 9.5 or 10. And you might say, man, you got a buckle there. How could you rate it so high? Well, you got to take into account a lot of things like the age of the house, the slope, the traffic, the moisture, that the water, when it rains, the ground expands, contracts. So, and here's another thing too while I'm on contraction. The stucco is butted into the foundation. Most of the homes in the country are like this because they didn't start doing weep screeds, which serve as an expansion also, until about 1975, and most people didn't use them until 80 anyhow. Then you got the flagstone. It's grouted and butted up to it, so it's all locked in. So when you get movement, such as a month of rain, it will move the house. Anyhow, what we're prepared to do today is, I'm going to break this out. I assume that here's a foundation. Foundation will go about right here. So this is going to be tight. Now, this area here, it'll probably come about right here, right to the vent. And if I remove this guy here, that'll release a lot of the tension on this. Will it come back? Maybe in 75 years, but I won't be around. Anyhow, what I'm prepared to do today is, I'm going to just take my hammer. This is so little, I don't want to hook up all my pneumatic tools. I'm going to take my hammer and break it out right about here. I'll break this out right here. And then once I break that out, there'll be wire behind here because this is probably wood. I would imagine it's 1x8 horizontal. This is foundation, so the wire should be over the foundation technically. I don't think I'm going to have any dry rot here because this is a stress crack. So I looked at the house, he sent me some photographs online, and online I could see this and that, and I thought, it's just stress. It has nothing to do with leaking. If you leave it like this, it will have something to do with leaking and rotting. So I'm going to break this out. And then, of course, the wire is going to be attaching this, and that'll be like a sock in a clothes dryer. So what I'll have to do then is take my snips. And once I break this out right here with just the point of my hammer, the head of it, I'm going to snip these wires. And then I'm just going to put my hammer here, pull this piece out, take it down about here, remove it, and Jay's going to mix me up a bucket while I'm doing that. I'm going to paper and wire this part up because that will need to be redone depending on how it looks here. If we're in the southwest side, I might expect some issues with dry rot, but I don't think we're going to have any here. I think the paper and wire is going to be in pretty good condition considering it's a 75-year-old house. So we're going to go ahead and do that. All right, guys, I got that broken out. Now what I did is I cut the bottom piece of wire right here. If I cut the top right up here, then I lose my tie-in. So now that that's all cut, there should be a few furry nails holding this in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to gently pull it away and just drop it. This should not be tied in. And why did I cut this side? Because a lot of times the redwood here is tied in. It's keyed. So if you just yank it off, you'll split the wood here. So you always want to cut this side too. Anyway, let's see what we got. I don't think it's a big deal here. In fact, I think it's pretty minor. It's just a normal stress crack. Very typical. Okay. Exactly what I thought it was. Ooh, okay, the paper's in excellent condition. I kind of figured it would be because it's a stress crack. It is not a leak. So there's the big difference. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to shove a little bit of paper underneath this because it's somewhat brittle, what do you expect for 75 years, rewire it, and put it back together. I'm going to clean this up a little bit, take a water hose and get all this loose stuff because my new stucco won't adhere to dust like this. Anyhow, you get the idea. Jay's already done with a bucket of mud. So I'm going to wire this up real quick, then you'll see us put it back together. All right, guys, we're at a stage now where I wire brush it, get all the dust off. I'm actually hitting it with Quickrete too. It's just a bonding agent for this joint. That way, when I go to put my 2 coats on, which is Jay already mixed it right here, it will adhere to everything. It will adhere anyhow to stucco, concrete for porous, but since I didn't wet the wall because I got to work right here, and you know what? I don't have to cover all this stuff because this same mess that I'm going to clean up is going to catch this. Anyhow, what I'm going to do now is switch gloves, get rid of these guys here because the lye from this scratch and brown will tear your skin up. And yeah, I've known guys lost their fingernails. They spread this stuff for so many years with no gloves. Big tough guys. I don't want to be that guy. Anyhow, Jay mixed this up a little while ago, and this has got accelerators in it. You can see as I'm putting this on, you see how high I can build this up? That means it has accelerators on it. All right. So what I'm going to do first is the thick part. Take that there. Okay, that's the fat part. Next, I'm going to hit this joint. The joint is over 1 inch. Now normally if I didn't have accelerators in here already, that would be falling. Okay. You really got to know how to mix this with accelerators if you're going to try to do anything like this. You folks, if you're even thinking about doing this and you don't have the time in, simply scratch it. That just means put your first coat on, wait a couple days, come back and do your next coat. All right. There we go. We just called it all right this time. Figured about a bucket of mud. Looks like that's about what we're going to use here. Get up there. Okay. We actually got to let this set about, I can feel it. That's how long I've been doing this. I can feel this mud we're using here. It's going to take about 10 minutes to set. So we're not going to put this all on to make a long video, but you get the idea. We're going to turn it off and I'll let this set. We're going to relax, then I'll come back and put my next coat on. All right guys, what we're doing here is just putting on the second coat now. And we're going to let this set for about 15 minutes and then we'll show you the finished coat. Finished coat is a knockdown dash. Now what I'm doing is simply floating it. Hard rubber float. Sponge float. If I use a sponge float, I bring the aggregate out. See how it's very, very sandy here? But I'm going to dash this anyway, so I don't really need to bring the aggregate out. Sponge float also helps you get your joints really tight. Hard rubber float compresses it, so I'm compressing it. And I'm just straightening it all out because we actually got a lot of mud on here. The last thing I'm going to do, this is called a knockdown dash. What's a dash? Well, like that old saying, dash of salt. Back in the early 1900s, we're doing it with a brush. We put soupy mud. The mud I used here, we added a lot of water, drilled it up, so we call that soupy mud. Anyhow, what I'll do is I'll dip my brush into the soupy mud, and all I want to do is flick it. Flick a little bit on, just like that. Just flick a little bit on, and that's what they have. They have a very, very light knockdown dash. It was more prominent at one time. However, this has been painted maybe 8 times, so it's taken away a lot of the effect of the heavy knockdown dash. So now that I've got that, I'm just going to take my trowel and hit it very, very lightly. Just very lightly. That way when these guys paint it, they don't have to use a whole lot of coats of paint. A primer and a paint. 2 coats, as recommended, should match this right here into this. So anyway, that's how you repair it. My name's Kirk, Jason on the camera. And folks, as usual, appreciate you watching, and we'll see you on the next one.